have I got a treat for you today. I'm very excited to bring a guest onto the podcast this week who is here to talk about marketing. Always what people tell me their biggest challenge is, because they're either not doing any of it, or what they are doing, they're not sure if it's working, if it's the right thing they should be focusing on. Ad is here from Test Tube Marketing. They are our marketing company in Thrive. I've known Ad for many years. He is fabulous, and he has Fish, who works for him as well, formerly known as Big Fish, because he's absolutely humongous. But Big Fish and Ad and Grace behind the scenes, who just keeps them in check, run an amazing marketing agency. And they have really helped us in terms of our strategy and our bigger picture planning, and making sure that we're being strategic and focused and really honing in to the problems that we can solve in our industry. So Ads is here. There are some really juicy takeaways. And what is great is that me and Ad talk exactly the same language. And that's reassuring, because, some people in the marketing world will disagree with how we say things and how we do things. And that's good, because not every way suits everybody. But me and Ad are very much on the same page. We talk the same language, and I think you're going to get huge value from this episode. So without further ado, let's introduce Ad and dive in. Welcome to the Treat Your Business podcast with Katie Bell. I'm Katie, and this is the place where clinic owners like you learn the strategies, tools, and mindset shifts needed to transform your clinic into a thriving business, one that gives you more time, more money, and more freedom. Born from a passion to challenge the idea that average is normal, we empower clinic owners to create extraordinary businesses, incomes, and lives. Through our world-class coaching programs, we help you step out of overwhelm and into confidence, turning your clinic into a business that fuels your lifestyle, not draining it. So, are you ready? Let's dive in. I'm delighted to tell you this episode of the Treat Your Business podcast is proudly brought to you by Nookal, the leading practice management software designed to streamline operations and empower every allied health clinic. Their platform seamlessly handles every aspect of your clinic, from scheduling and clinical note-taking to invoicing and reporting. Their innovative solution will help streamline your clinic and free up your valuable time, allowing you to focus on delivering better patient care and growing your business. So if you're tired of juggling multiple systems and wasting precious hours on administrative tasks, then experience the innovation of Nookal and discover how it can improve the efficiency and profitability of your practice. Visit nookal.com today to learn more about how their automated features and user-friendly interface can revolutionize the way you manage your practice. Unlock the full potential of your clinic with Nookal, the practice management software that puts you in control of your time. Now, let's get back to business. Hello, Ash. Hello. Welcome to the Treat Your Business podcast. Thank you for being here.
I'm honoured to be asked.
Thank you. And I have dragged you here. No, you were more than happy to come. I've dragged you here because we work together, don't we? You do all of our marketing stuff within Thrive. And we've known each other for a while and started this relationship in January, where you've been working very strategically with us on our marketing plan, the bigger picture, and then how everything else aligns with that. And so everything that you said, I think, offers such high value. And I really wanted to be able to pass that on to some of our listeners, because I quote you all the time. Believe it or not, you are famous in our world. So, yeah, I know. And one of the biggest challenges I think our clinic and our industry has is that we often feel like we have to be everything to everybody. So let's say that we're physios or osteopaths. We can treat the neck, the shoulder, the knee, the back, the foot. We could treat it all. But that, in terms of when we then start to market ourselves, tends to run us into a bit of a corner, because we just think if we list all the things that we do, we will possibly attract a bigger pool of people, and therefore our marketing will work more effectively. But in fact, that's often the exact opposite to what we should be doing, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of misconceptions, actually. I think there's the misconception that if I focus too much on one particular audience or issue, I'm going to miss out on loads of people. And also the other misconception is, if I do focus on this one ailment or issue in this world, like say if it was back pain, for example, that then I can't talk about anything else. And I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is they don't want to reduce the size of their audience, and so they end up talking about everything at the same time. And something that I always say is that you need to narrow the focus to broaden the appeal. What most people do is they broaden their focus and actually it just narrows the appeal because it doesn't really speak to anyone individually. And so I always advise in most businesses that we work with to just get hyper specific on the audience that you want to speak to on a particular pain point or problem that you can resolve. That doesn't mean that you can't then speak to the other issues. So I've been a serial patient over the year following a fight with a car when I was younger. And so I understand the osteos, physios, that sort of stuff. They help your entire body. But what I think is super valuable in this world is to be able to talk specifically to someone with back pain, for example, because the problems that someone experiences with back pain are not the same problems that someone experiences with tennis elbow, or they need knee surgery or whatever it may be. And the better you can articulate the problems and the experiences that someone's going through, the more conviction they have in your ability to solve them.
And does that mean then that if I'm a physio clinic that could solve somebody's back problem, somebody who's got tennis elbow, somebody who's got a rotator cuff issue, does that mean then I almost need to map out over the year different pain points that we want to market and we want to speak to? But we could do, like in January, it could be the month that we're really focusing on back pain, for example. So everything's talking about that. And then we move to, in March, we're talking about tennis elbow as people start playing tennis and golf again. Is that what you mean? So we can talk about it all, but not all at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. I think, and I know that you quote me on saying this, but strategy is the art of sacrifice. Like any good strategy in anything requires you to sacrifice things. So if you want to get healthy and fit and lose weight, guess what? You're going to have to sacrifice the chocolate and the crisps and the biscuits. I'm talking to myself here because I love red wine. There has to be sacrifices if you want to get the result. And so for a period of time, especially if we're talking about businesses that are not multi 7-figure businesses or multi 6-figure businesses, like doing what you suggested absolutely makes sense to go, right, let's have a focused time where we're only going to talk about this one particular thing. When the business gets bigger, you still do that really focused messaging and marketing, but you can actually do it like individually, separately, but at the same time.
Yeah.
So you're not putting a mixed message out there. You're putting a very clear, this is talking to someone with back pain message. So if you've got the budget and you're the size of business that can run advertising alongside it for knees and elbows, great. But what you should never do, regardless of size, is go, hey, if you've got a back issue, knee issue, and say it all in one go. And so I think what you said makes absolute sense, that you could almost map out well, let's go, month one is this, or as you said, which is a great idea, anything seasonal, like the golf season starts again in April pretty much. So it's back issues, you can talk to golfers or whatever it may be. And here's the thing, it might be that you go, I'm going to talk about backs, then in May, I'm going to talk about knees and then elbows or whatever it may be. It might be that the back stuff goes so well that you get so busy. Why bother with everything else? And this is the thing, when you start to market a particular thing that you solve, suddenly people start talking about you. It's like, oh, I've got a back issue. You need to go and see Katie.
Yes.
She specializes in backs. So,
and that's the power, isn't it, that I think we miss often when we try and be everything to everybody and therefore nothing to nobody. And if we've spoke a lot about MSK, which is the back pain, the knee pain, but if we've got lots of children's physios that listen to this, we've got lots of neurophysios. So what I see often is that, let's say the neurophysio, they can treat people who've had a stroke, who've got Parkinson's, who've got MS, who've got MND, who've got dizziness, vestibular problems. But their marketing is so confused because they're trying to talk to all of those patients. And when I look at it and look at, like, for example, a stroke patient, I almost think you've also got two categories there. You've got the patient that's very acute, that's just had a stroke and is in huge need of very intensive rehab. And you've got a patient that may have had a stroke 2 years ago and feel like there's nothing else that they can ever do.
Yeah.
And so they've got different problems and conversations in their own head. So would you be advising add to like niche as far as that when we're putting communication out there?
Yeah, I think so. Also, in that respect, like, you need to think about who you're marketing to, because if you've got someone that's just gone through this and they're in all sorts of bother, they're not going to be looking on their phone and stuff like that and scrolling. They're going to be really poorly. And so you need to be thinking, who's the person that's going to be encouraging this to happen? Who's the family member or whatever?
Yeah.
So you need to think about who you're putting it in front of. But definitely being able to speak to those two different things, because it's a niche within a niche. And I've said it before, the narrower the focus, the broader the appeal. Like I said, people assume that they're going to miss out on people if they don't say everything that I do. But if they just chose one particular thing, like, how many thousands of people out there have that issue? If you just got even 1% of that market, you would be probably too busy anyway.
Yeah.
And so I think the more you can do that, the more impactful your marketing is going to be, because it's like the number one rule of marketing, or the first rule of marketing, is just to get attention. And if you're not hyper specific, then people are just going to ignore it.
And that's interesting, because I think we have two distinct camps here. There will be people listening to this that just rely on word of mouth and don't do any marketing. And you know who you are, who are listening to this. And that's okay at a certain size of business. I say okay, it's okay, but it's not a resilient, sustainable business model. If you want to grow, you're going to have to learn how to do impactful marketing in your business. And then we've got the camp where they're doing marketing, but they're doing like a bit of social media posting. They might send the odd newsletter out to their email list when they remember. They might do a workshop here and there, but nothing is consistent. And so what's your advice, Ad, for those people who are feeling like they're doing a lot, but don't really know what's working and what they should keep doing?
Yeah, I think it's worth saying that niching or specializing or focusing in on a market is a marketing tactic, not a life sentence. So not feeling like, if I make this decision now, I'm stuck doing this forever. So I think, like, in the situation that you just described, there's no focus there. And so if you can just commit to one thing and know that it's not forever, it might work, it might not.
Yeah.
But then just commit to that being your message that you're putting out there, and just get a bit of consistency. If you do stuff on social media, then just make it more about one thing, because it actually makes it easier to be consistent when you are talking about one thing.
Absolutely.
And like, for me, my advice always is, I don't really deal in blanket advice other than one thing. And for me, it's building an email list and being able to communicate with those people via email, because email is far more effective than social media at client acquisition. Like, it's 5x more impactful. That's not just data that's out there from tests that we've run. The email is more powerful. So I'd always advise people to build an email list and then just remain consistent, just once a week, stay in touch with them, and be personable. Not every week you're just sending a message trying to sell them something.
Shall we tell the story of when you write a lot of my emails now? Do you remember me telling, I must have told you a story about something that had gone on at home with my husband about the hedge. Remember Hedgegate? And you wrote the email with the story on and narrated it perfectly. And I didn't realise, or we didn't realise, did we, that my husband is on our email list for whatever reason. I've no idea. And I just got this screenshot
the email that you sent out about Hedgegate, and what was the title? It was something funny, wasn't it? I can't
remember what the title was. But here's the thing. I think that's a great example. I think the reason that people get inconsistent, like the scenario that you described earlier, is because they're trying too hard to think of content or information to put out there.
Yeah.
And I think in the world that we're in now with AI, anyone can put information out there. I don't know anything other than my own personal experience with physios and all that sort of stuff about the medical side of the industry. I could send as much information out as anyone else because I could use ChatGPT. So like the value these days in communication and content isn't in information, it's in connection, and it's anecdotes and stories about your husband destroying the hedge or whatever it was. It's Matt, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or the dog that cut his paw when
Yeah.
up the gin and tonic. It's things like that people can connect with, and then you can use that just to build relationships and just stay in people's focus. Because some interesting data you've probably heard me say it anyway, certainly for the listeners, that when someone inquires about a product or service, 53% of people that inquire about something go on to buy that thing. So that's 53% of the inquiries go on to buy that thing in the next 18 months.
Wow.
And not necessarily from the person they inquired about originally or inquired from. And only 15% of those total buyers buy in the first 30 days. So that means 85% of your sales come from month 2 to month 18. And so you just staying in people's focus means that when the time is right, which for 53% of those people, it will be right at some point, they think of you. Like we send out a weekly email, Fish, my business partner in the agency, and we do it religiously.
Yeah.
And we have people that have been on our email list. We had a consult 2 weeks ago from guys that flew over from Ireland. They've just signed up as a client this week, who had been on the email list reading the emails of fishes for 5 years.
No.
5 years. And now, and obviously that's longer than 18 months. Now, because they'd sold a business, then they bought back a portion of the business, and now they wanted to work on their marketing. They were like, we need to sort our marketing out. Oh, we get those emails all the time. Let's get in touch with them. Didn't even know they existed until they reached out. So
amazing.
I think one of the big mistakes I think people make is they're going, I'm only going to put stuff out if I can see I'm going to get stuff back straight away. And that's not the right mindset to do it. You just want to be out there, and salience is the key. Just being noticeable.
Yeah.
We've had referrals from people that aren't even working with us. So they must have been talking down the pub or something, and someone's a business owner and gone, yeah, I'm struggling with marketing. They've gone, I get marketing emails from these pair of idiots. Like, you should speak to them. And they've reached out, and they don't even work with us, the referral. And that's just from remaining in people's focus. So just that alone.
Yeah. I think that when people say, what makes a business successful? If we were being interviewed by Stephen Bartlett when we're rich and famous, obviously we both will be. And they ask him big questions, don't they? I was listening to him on Nick James's podcast this morning, actually. And he always asks these big questions to Stephen Bartlett. And Stephen Bartlett always comes out with these amazing answers that I think, oh my God, where has he just plucked that from? But one of the things I always say is, how do people be a success? How do we get to building our business at the speed and at the level we've done? And I always say it's consistency. It's that when I set up my clinic, I was consistently in everybody's face all the time until we started to get traction. And then I continued to remain consistent in different ways, but I was at everything. We had a wrapped car driving around Sheffield that was bright pink. We ran our own race in the park. Everything was all about us because we were going into a market that was, I think the saturated is the wrong word, but very established big clinics in the city. And how was I going to stand out? But we were everywhere, and we were consistently everywhere and nurturing our email list from day one. And that's what brings the majority of our clients through the door now.
Yeah, exactly. It's because you're noticeable.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's it. Consistency is the absolute key. Is if you see anyone, like the easiest example is people that are in incredible shape. Like
Like you,
either,
obviously.
yeah, like me. But like they've only got that way because they've been doing the same stuff for years.
Yeah.
But what most people want is going, can you tell me how to get like that in 3 weeks? And then you go, I can tell you what you need to do as a habit for 3 weeks, and then you need to carry on doing it for 3 years. But after 3 weeks, they're going, I don't look like you. This doesn't work. I'm off. I'm doing something else.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest thing. It's like committing to doing stuff, knowing that in the future you're going to see the results, but you're not going to see it in the short term necessarily. And that's the bit that needs to sit alongside your other marketing, just showing up, being consistent in people's inboxes or whatever.
Because we are an instant gratification sort of society, we think, I'm going to put £1,000 into Google Ads and I want this amount of patients. That might bring you that short term. But with your email list, with the workshops, the events, the connection, the community stuff that you do, you won't always see that immediate return like a Google ad might bring you.
Yeah. One of my favorite sayings, and this isn't mine, but you can copy it and say it's mine, is what you measure doesn't always matter, and what matters can't always be measured. So
Tell me that again. What you
measure doesn't always matter.
Yeah.
You measure so many things in marketing and business.
Yeah.
Actually, it doesn't matter. But what matters can't always be measured. There's stuff that happens, like my emails that I send out regularly. If you went, right, I want you to tell me the ROI of each email, I couldn't tell you.
No.
Because like I can't measure it, but it matters. There's not like a clickable link in every email saying do this thing, therefore I can go, here's the return on investment from every email.
Yeah.
And I think wrong with marketing is the obsession to measure everything. I think you've got to measure stuff. Don't get me wrong. Absolutely. You need to measure certain things to be able to optimize it. But I've worked with a company before I set up my own agency where they only were comfortable doing things if you could measure a return. Therefore, you miss out on the stuff that you can't measure its impact.
Yeah. And I think when I look at my clinic, we do a lot of stuff that can't be measured. Like, for example, we do Member of the Year. So all the instructors nominate from their classes, and we've got 300 odd people doing classes with us a week. So we pick out these 10 people or 11 people, and then we have a winner, and they get a big gift, and it's a big thing that's showcased in the clinic. We celebrate people's birthdays. If they come for physio on the birthday, they've got a gift and a card waiting for them. If we know it's the 50th or the 40th or the kids pass something, we send them flowers, or we do. And it's all of those things you cannot possibly ever measure, but it matters.
Hugely.
And it's that for me, marketing is happening in your clinic all the time. So when people say, oh, I don't really do any marketing, you do, because you run in a business. And just in that fact of the stuff that you're doing in your clinic, recommending referrals, talking about your other services, recognizing your members of the month, that's all marketing in a sense, isn't it?
Of course it is, yeah. And
it's not measurable.
Yeah, and a perfect example of stuff that people measure that doesn't matter is like my social media following. Like, great, it's a vanity metric. Like, it matters when it gets to a certain scale. I can point to people that have got a tiny social media following that have got much better businesses than people with huge social media followings.
Yeah.
You know, but
and I guess it's that we could focus on like our podcast downloads. And I always think, and I'm sure I've said this to you as well, and to Joe, who produces our podcast, what's a good number? What shall I be aiming for? And you both are like, how long's a piece of string, Katie? Because ultimately that number doesn't really matter. It matters to a point. If you're only getting one person listening to it, then you're obviously not going to have visibility. But we have a really high listen rate in terms of people listen to the whole episode. And we have a huge amount of people contact us as a result of listening to the podcast. So the actual volume of downloads isn't always the most important measurable, is it?
Yeah, and you can't actually measure the effectiveness of the podcast. You just trust that going out there, showcasing your expertise, talking about a subject that you know your people want to talk about will get you business.
Yeah.
It's very hard unless they go, I've specifically joined Thrive because of your podcast. There'll be people that have joined Thrive because they've been listening to your podcast that you don't even know that's the reason.
Yeah. And Stephen Bartlett said this morning that the measure that he looks at on his podcast downloads is the number of listens from WhatsApp. How he tracks that, I've no idea. But basically he was saying that, was it Mo Corda was his favourite?
Yeah.
What's his name?
Mo Gaudat.
Mo Gaudat, that's right. That was his favourite ever episode that he did.
Have you listened to that one?
No, I haven't. I'm driving this afternoon. I'm going to listen to it.
Episode 101.
101, yeah, the happiness episode. He was saying that didn't have the most downloads or whatever. It was the episode that was sent to most people via WhatsApp. So he said, so what that means is that I've sent it to you, Ad, because I'm like, this is mega, you've got to listen to this. And there's something like 150 group limit on WhatsApp. So he was like, so the max that I would have probably sent is 150 people it, but I probably only sent it to one. He was like, and that's how he measures how effective that podcast had been.
Yeah, interesting. I did share that with a couple of people, that episode, actually.
Yeah. Because yeah. So that's really interesting, isn't it? So what I'm hearing here, summarize this for our clinic owners, the more niche you can be, the more focused you can be, it actually broadens your appeal. So we can talk about everything that you possibly can treat. We can't talk about it all at once.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, just a perfect example of this that I've just got back from staying with my dad for 10 days. He's had problems with his back. If I see an ad that talks about your back hurts or you might have a bit of knee pain and you're limping a little bit and your neck's a bit stiff, versus you're comfortable when you're sat in a chair, the second you go to get up, you get a shooting pain down your leg, and then you're hunched over whilst you're walking over a stick, I'm going, this is the person for me. And that's the thing that your marketing needs to do. It needs to talk to one person. It has to just be talking to one person, and you get really super specific on their pains and their problems. Something that I know you're going to mention, the Instagram of ours. I'm pretty sure there's on there a downloadable thing, which is, ignore the fact that it's 17-point sales page checklist, but there's things on there that you need to consider, and like the person, the pain, the problems, like who you're trying to repel. That would be really useful just to get that clarity.
Yeah.
There's that clarity of solving someone's pain, and it's literal for most of your guys. It's literal pain, whereas a lot of the time we're solving like perceived pain with businesses and stuff. Like, the more that people can focus on that and be consistent talking about it, the better results they'll get, I believe.
Yeah. Okay, so really narrow, niche, be specific, talk to that one person. The second thing I think we said was that we actually need to be consistent with our approach. So it might be that you start talking about backs and back pain and you end up being busy enough and you don't actually need to focus on. So it's choosing that thing that you're really passionate about, and that you love to treat and that you really want to be known as the expert in, and owning that rather than trying to be the jack of all trades.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure someone will challenge me on this, who makes the most amount of money and is the most sought after? A GP, a general practitioner, or a specialist? Like, if you've got a back problem, or like I've recently had wrist injury, I went and saw someone that specializes in operating on wrists. They could probably operate on lots of different parts of the body.
Yeah.
But they're much more valuable because they specialize. And I think if your people just became because I know it's probably a lot of it is localized in an area, it's not going to be global or fully all across the country. if you went, I'm going to become the knee specialist in the area, like that gets out.
Yeah.
People talk about it.
Yeah.
So if you just set a goal to become a specialist, then once you are that specialist, you can branch out if you want to. You might not ever need to.
So true. So true. And then we talked about really to gain attention of your clients, it's being able to talk to the conversation that they've got going on in their head, the pain points, the worries, the concerns, the anxieties, the things they can't do, like your dad. You repeated those pain points because you were literally there. You could see him. I could see it in your eyes. Like I could see him sat in a chair. As soon as he moves, sharpshooting pain down his leg, punched over a stick, trying to get to the bathroom.
Exactly.
If you resonated with that because you were the carer there that was having to witness all of that, but equally, if your dad saw that, he would resonate with that and think, this is who I need to speak to. This is who I need to work with.
Oh, 100%. And the more you understand, the more you niche, the easier this job becomes, because then it's just, I'm just solving that one particular pain or problem that someone's got. Because people's attention spans these days are so small and there's so much noise going on that if you're not specific, then you're just not even seen.
Yeah. And then the final thing I think that I took from this was about building your email list from day one.
Yeah.
And the beauty of it for physios, they give you a blooming email to book in anyway. So use it and nurture them. And
100%. And I think to add to that is the stat that I shared around the inquiry versus when people actually buy. And that's why you need to have an email list, so that when it is the right time, because for 85% of the buyers in the first 30 days isn't the right time.
Yeah.
That when it is the right time, they only think of you. Otherwise, and I said this to someone the other day, a call I had yesterday, they're generating leads, they've got no follower at all, big business, and they're going, we're quite happy actually not doing any follow-up or any nurture and stuff. I'm like, cool. So basically, you're marketing for someone else. You're paying for someone else's marketing, because they're going to buy it at some point, 53% of them, and not from you. So you're just pissing away money for someone else. Thanks.
Wow. So the follow-up is as important as the initial marketing campaign. You need to have a system in place that nurtures, follows up those people that have raised their hand, but it might not be right now that they take the action.
Yeah. For most people, it won't be right now. And that's the only caveat to that is the level of, if you need a plumber, like you need a plumber now, having it in 18 months when your house is already flooded is no good. So there will be people in your audience that have got a very specific actual physical pain that needs to be resolved. And then some that don't. It's just like, it would be, I'm just shopping around kind of thing. It's not,
because I've been putting up with this for absolutely ages.
Yeah.
And they need to not be convinced, but they need to build that trust factor, that like, know, and trust before they can make that decision that, yes, this is the right person for me.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to demonstrate, you've got to build the relationship. You've got to demonstrate that you're trustworthy, And one last thing I think, which will really help, is no one really cares about you in terms of, if someone lands on your website, I don't care how established you are or how many qualifications you've got or how good you say you are. I care about me, and the better you can speak directly to me and about the situation that I'm in, the more I'm going to trust you.
Yeah. And so when physios and osteos and sports therapists get obsessed about doing another CPD course or another qualification, like it's hugely important. We've got to be clinically excellent. But they think that is going to make them busier and more successful and make more money. And I often say that won't.
No, it won't. Like, show, don't tell.
Yeah.
Demonstrate your expertise by people sharing their success stories and testimonials with you. And it's not just in your industry, in every industry. And I challenge everyone listening to go and look at a load of websites. Most of them start with, why I'm so amazing. I've been established since so, and it's like almost about the about me bit is what the first part of the website is, and it's I'm not here for you, I'm here for me.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
I need to connect with that quickly because I'm going to scroll and click away within about 7 seconds, 5 seconds, is it? Or whatever it is when you hit the website.
I don't know what it is these days, but yeah, obviously you've got to be credible and you've got to be good at what you do.
Yeah.
But remember that the first reason they're there is because they've got a problem and they're seeing if you can articulate that problem, because then they'll believe in you to solve it.
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
all interlinked.
It totally is. This has been so helpful. Our listeners are going to really love this. So what's the Instagram page they need to go to get this download?
It's just test tube marketing on Instagram.
Okay. We'll make sure that that's linked in the show notes so they can head there and watch you two clowns do this.
Then our followers, which is about 36. We've got 7 subscribers on YouTube. But what we got great at was doing the email marketing for you can do anything, but you can't do everything.
Yeah.
We started off, we've been doing our emails now for quite some time. Now we're moving into the realm of now let's get some consistency on social media. If anything first is email.
Yeah.
For us.
Which is great. And you grew your business to a very great size without having to focus on subscribers, followers, likes, downloads, all of those sorts of things. You didn't need to do it. And clinic owners listening to this, please understand that you don't need to do that either.
Yep.
But you do need to be consistent and narrow down that niche. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
You've been amazing.